Okay, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. This is our latest sequence of webinars from Colibri Digital. We'll be exploring the topic of evergreen data and AI and how to maintain momentum. We work with many private equity and high growth firms, and quite often the frustration is how do they maintain momentum and how do they stop the failures straight after launch so that they can deliver continuous ROI. So we're going to delve into that a little bit today. So welcome to the webinar. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll have a nice Q&A session at the end. So let's get going. So today I'm joined by Vinay Kapoor, CPO of Expana. Thank you, Vinay, for giving up your valuable time. Welcome to the team.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Cool. And so I'm Steve Sell. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Colibri Digital. So overseeing many of the delivery solutions that we have with our customers. So I'd love to chat about that with many people if you'd like to engage at some point. But for today, we're going to be talking about the evergreen approach to data and AI ops. Vinay, would you like to just give a quick overview of your own role?
Yeah, hi everyone. Vinay Kapoor, I'm the Chief Product Officer of Expana. I've been with the company for more than 2 years. My background is in product and product leadership, over 25 years in B2B space, primarily in the SaaS business, where I worked with supply chain, data and analytics, and back in the day, mobile as well. Yeah, great to have this conversation. Happy to be here, Steve.
Fantastic. A wealth of information in your head, I'm sure. Okay, so what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at a concept called the delivery cliff, and I hope that resonates with many people. It's quite a common theme, and if you've worked in professional services, managed services, or tech in general over the years, I'm sure it's something that you will recognise. We're actually going to have Vinay's going to talk to us about the Expana journey, tell you a little bit more about the company, the journey they've been on, and their approach to creating a unified data platform. We're going to try and talk a little bit around how to avoid the delivery cliff and some of the decision making and the approaches you can set off with to ensure that your journey is successful. We're going to look at continuous optimization and why that matters more than the perfect launch. So we'll delve deeper into that, and then we'll look at what managed services of the now and the future looks like with agentic AI and the world evolving all around us. So I hope that's an exciting enough agenda. So we'll carry on. So first of all, I just wanted to touch on Colibri. Many people may know who Colibri are, and some people may be watching today and haven't come across Colibri Digital. So Colibri Digital are ultimately a cloud-native, cloud data and AI specialist partner. And our CEO and founder, James Cross, created an organization upon a vision, which is here on the screen. So it was about empowering businesses and communities with transformative cloud, data and AI solutions. He wants to be able to drive innovation, efficiency and sustainable growth and solve real world challenges. So James very much sees Colibri as the people power and the expertise to help unlock technology advancements to deliver real return on investment for businesses. So hopefully that vision will start to flow through the webinar as we go through, talk a little bit more about Colibri team and philosophy. So the delivery cliff. The delivery cliff isn't a new concept ultimately, but it's becoming more and more important because nearly everything nowadays is about having that data platform, and the data platform becoming the secure foundation for all of your future releases and projects going forward. So the delivery cliff is that one-time solution that didn't deliver perpetual growth or momentum. And actually, it could have been due to a lack of strategy or strategic thinking. It could be through disparate projects or disparate data sources. It could be because technical debt from projects that are overpromised and underdelivered. And actually, what that actually means is you've lost an opportunity to actually drive the business forward. So what we're obviously all aiming for within the industries that we work within is that's a perfect future of prosperity where we can unlock AI and we can actually have a foundation that allows us to recognize that future. So obviously we want to imagine that world where the data and AI platform doesn't deliver a one-time piece and actually becomes the perpetual engine for growth for your decision making now, tomorrow, next month, next year and onwards. You don't want to have to re-architect your solution every time you want to add a new feature or do something different. So, just bear that in mind when you think about what the delivery cliff is, because obviously we've probably all experienced it in some way, shape, or form. In terms of the delivery cliff, what does it actually feel like? So it feels like firefighting. It feels like when your data team and your engineers are actually spending more time firefighting instead of innovating. It's where you're probably experiencing cost spikes, or actually maybe you've actually not even got time to look at the costs, and actually the costs aren't being governed and controlled anymore. It's where you started applying AI quickly and rapidly, but actually it's lost its accuracy, and actually, or maybe you've overlaid AI onto a data platform that wasn't really a trusted source in the first place. So actually, you're heading in the wrong direction. And ultimately, as a business, you've lost focus. You're focused on yesterday's failures, talking about what went wrong and how you can stop it happening again in a more legacy kind of approach to operations, as opposed to looking at tomorrow's opportunities in terms of what else can you do. So ultimately, you lose competitive edge, you lose velocity, and ultimately, it's the silent killer of rapid progress. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the delivery cliff. I'm sure that everybody's got a story they could tell around a delivery cliff they've experienced in their past or in their current future. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hand over to Vinay. Vinay's going to give us a bit of a background into Expana and the journey that Vinay's been on. And obviously, we're going to talk about that delivery cliff challenge as we go through that process. Vinay, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. And again, welcome everyone. Just a quick introduction of Expana. I thought it would be a good idea to spend a couple of minutes just sort of telling you who we are. Since you're going to hear a lot about our journey, but it was good to sort of just start with, Expana. And, if you go to the next slide, we are essentially a commodity price data and analysis or market intelligence in the food provider since, believe it or not, the mid 1800s. So back from the days of the cowboys, the founding of the company was actually one of the brands that we acquired was Urner Berry, which was actually founded in 1858. There were two people who essentially walked the docks of New York to collect prices on different commodities and then sell that as a subscription service back in 1800s. So we've been an ARR generating business for that many years. And essentially Expana, and this will become very relevant in our conversation, Steve, when we talk about this. Expana is a combination of 5 leading market intelligence providers and more, smaller sort of providers, and a coming together of many businesses over the years. If you move on to the next slide. Our capabilities are essentially providing market intelligence in the food commodity space. So you think of any company that you interact with, any organization or entity that you interact with when you as a consumer are consuming food or food related commodities. So whether you buy it at a supermarket, you eat food at a restaurant, or you are getting catering served by a food service, they are most likely an Expana customer. We have thousands of customers globally. And when I say we provide market intelligence, we are providing benchmark prices on commodities, hundreds of commodities, whether it's food or food related. So it could be red meat, poultry, grains, oils. It could be or plastics or labor or energy. We provide that real-time pricing as well as forecasting and allow them to do cost modeling. So you might have a chicken pot pie and you want to know what the cost basis of that chicken pot pie that you're shipping is. You might want to know what the weather is going to look like at the Ivory Coast, because that impacts the price of coffee and cocoa. So we provide all of this information like proprietary news and trade data across the board for all of these hundreds of different commodities to thousands of customers in the world.
Very much a data-driven business.
Yeah. Yeah, very much a data-driven business, right? I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of time series, but it's also the variety of data that we have. It's kind of interesting. It's not just structured data, but unstructured data, which again will become relevant as we talk about the cliff. And then the last slide, real quick, is like I mentioned, hundreds of commodities, whether it's seafood, industrial materials, and chemicals. And what's interesting is that we are, as pointed out on the next slide, we are what is known as a price reporting agency. It is a specific term with a specific meaning in the price discovery space. We are a original discoverer or creator of prices, and we have benchmark prices that are proprietary to us and are IOSCO assured. Very few companies, I think less than 10 companies in the food space are actually IOSCO assured, which means that we are assured by a third party independent agency that our prices are trustworthy. And we have benchmark prices across multiple different categories, whether it's red meat, eggs, or feed additives. We are the benchmark in these areas, and we provide thousands of reports and analysis. So to your point, Steve, very data-rich business, but also a very critical business in the supply chain.
Okay, perfect. So that data intelligence is obviously ultimately your business model, and through acquisition you talked about at the start of the session. Clearly, you would have had some pain points within your business in terms of limitations as to what you could do. So what aspects of that like delivery cliff analogy were you experiencing, and what were the main pain points for the company?
And I think it's very important to highlight one thing that you said, right? You use the analogy of a cliff. And the reason, and I'm going to talk about, our biggest pain point. But before I talk about that, the problem with a cliff and why you end up with cliffs in some cases is because the foundations are weak, is the shifting sands of a bad foundation that then collapse and leave you with a cliff. And that's very much is the foundation that was the biggest challenge because, obviously, an acquisition of multiple businesses means that there were multiple different data assets. Now, these are all in silo, amazing assets and well built, but there was a variety of these assets sitting in multiple different formats and structures in many different silos. And ultimately, if we as a business want to provide value across the entire value chain to our customers. So I take that example of chicken pot pie for a retailer, right? They are not able to find insights end to end. And that's what we want to provide. And having a foundation which was siloed was our biggest challenge from a delivery cliff perspective. So how do we bring that together? It wasn't even possible to build value. The other thing is, looking at sort of, what our vision is and, continues to be, there was low velocity to implement that vision, lack of skills and experience in the team because the vision very much required a completely different tech stack. So it was all of these things.
Yeah, and that secure foundation, I say, through the journey of creating a unified data platform, that gives you a foundation to operate against. But obviously, I suppose there's also the dangers of you don't just want to pour everything into a data platform. It's got to be, you've got to analyze and look at that data as you're ingesting it and working out what data is valuable and trusted versus which data is maybe obsolete or end of life or needs to, you don't want to put poor data into a new foundation for growth, do you?
Absolutely, and I think one of the mistakes that you can make is in the name of incremental development, try to get something out the door very, very quickly without thinking about what that foundation looks like. And we see that with AI, right? There was a recent study out from, I believe it was MIT, that showed that something like 80 to 90% of all AI POCs are failing. And the reason for that is, rightly so, people are trying to get value out or doing POCs to try things out very quickly, but then not investing in ensuring that there is a strong foundation means that you get that high of very quick delivery, but it runs out of steam because you run into limitations that you alluded to, Steve.
Yeah, okay, that's another perfect delivery cliff analogy there, isn't it? Where people are throwing themselves off the cliff in hope that they're going to take off, and actually the foundation isn't there, and actually they're going to drop. So that's actually quite insightful. So in terms of once it comes to the build, obviously, Expana are a really technical organization, right? You've got some really, really strong people leading this strategy, which is being very, very successful. So why did you choose like Databricks as your tech platform, and why did you choose Colibri as your strategic delivery partner on this journey?
Yeah, and I think if I take a step back, right, the question that one can ask is why go third party at all, and why not sort of start by relying on the team that was either in house or build a team in house. And I think what was very important once we did discovery, and we can come back and talk about the need of discovery in a minute, but Once we finished our initial discovery and looking at the lay of the land, so to speak, and looking at the landscape of what was there, and then comparing that to the vision of where we wanted to be, it was very clear that we needed to scale immediately, right? And we needed to make some fundamental changes, not just in the technology, but also the skill set. So that requires a lead time. And you can't really build that skill set, or even if you build that skill set, what if the skill set is wrong? What if you decide that you need something slightly different down the road? So it was very, very important for us to scale immediately, but at the same time have the optionality of making moves and changes as we needed. So being very flexible and adaptable. So we decided that it was the right move to go and engage with the third party. And both Colibri and Databricks stood out, and they go hand in hand, because when we looked at, again, it goes back to the landscape and the needs. We have a lot of variety of data in our business, and the velocity is also very high. So we have data that's published quite frequently. We have structured data, we have unstructured data. It used to be sitting in many different silos, many different systems, built slightly differently. We have Mongo versus SQL versus whatnot. And that variety of data meant that we really needed a data lakehouse architecture, because it would allow us to bring in the raw data into one place, but then continue to build value on top of that in a very structured format for the end user in a very appealing user interface, right in that same stack. I don't have to lift and shift the data. It's in one place in Databricks, and I can do the entire data lifecycle. I can implement that in that one place. And then Colibri stood out as a partner that was geographically in the right place for us. We have a huge presence in London. Colibri is there. We have some experience working with Colibri in the past, had the right skills, was able to scale. So things sort of just came together, and we felt that both the technology and the partner just sort of worked hand in hand, and that was the right approach for us.
Yeah, okay. And how did you, I know obviously initially there's the proof of technology to Databricks. It was then scoping that strategy and that almost like minimal viable product, working with some of the thought leadership within Colibri as well. So how did you then build it with like scalability in mind? Because obviously I know this platform is going to be scaling and scaling and scaling in your roadmap.
Yeah, and I think this is where I'll go back and talk a little bit about discovery, and then sort of come back and talk about the need for scalability and how we build scalability. And we go back to the sort of conversation of foundations. This is where foundations are very important. So it's extremely important to spend time in proper discovery and understanding not just the landscape, but more importantly, understanding the user and the use cases. So we spent quite a bit of time early on in doing proper discovery with who our users are, what is the key persona, what is the ICP, what is the ideal customer profile, and what are the jobs to be done, what are they doing on a day-to-day basis, what outcomes are they expecting every single day. And then mapping that back to the technology was a key to the scalability and governance conversation. Because instead of thinking about scalability from a technology perspective, which is, how can I ensure that I can onboard more users, which is, in the world of SaaS, that's a given. It's you can throw money at that problem. What's actually more important, and the question that you want to answer more importantly, is how are you going to scale the use case and the business case? You don't want to wait 2 years to build your first commercial product. You want to get the product out very quickly, and then you want to scale with the user. So the scalability and governance conversation for us was not just about how we scale more users, but it was about how do we ensure that we can get something out the door that gives immediate value to the user in a trustworthy manner, but then we can mature the product over time as we've done over 2 years. So, it was very important for us to be able to try and prove that, the need was exactly what we imagined what it would be. So prove the hypothesis, and then ensure that that hypothesis was scalable. And that's why scalability was very important. And the way we did that was work hand in hand from day one, say, we're going to try it out with this cohort. We're going to make sure that we provide this value to this persona, and then move to that persona, and then incrementally add value and incrementally add complexity to the use case. Now, in all of that, governance is extremely important for us. And the reason why you mentioned governance, Governance is bread and butter. We are, like I mentioned, a proprietary price reporting agency. Our data is used for billions of dollars of transactions on a daily basis. And these are transactions of food commodities.
Yeah.
And it directly hits inflation. So our data is used in some very critical decisions. So trustworthiness of our data is top of mind for us and for our users. And that's why governance from day one is extremely important, because we want to make sure that when our user touches the data, they are not looking at something that is half-baked. They are looking at something that is trustworthy, that they can go and make decisions on. So that was really, really key part of the decision making from day one. And going through that, the decision making of the technology architecture as well as the use cases sort of played into that.
Yeah, so that's that approach of having your strategic roadmap, but then incrementally and continuously going at the use cases in a priority basis. That's obviously giving you an approach which has allowed you to build up ahead of like momentum. And what kind of return on investment has your organization seen from this new platform? And how have you sort of factored in the thought process around like an AI-driven advantage or future?
Yeah, so the low-hanging fruit of ROI is always in operational efficiency, which I'll mention first, but then the bigger prize, which you should not lose sight of, is sort of the business outcomes, as well as the outcomes for the end user. And the outcomes for the end user and that more delightful experience and more value for the end user is really the most important thing. So I'll start there, right? So at the end of the day, the biggest ROI that we've delivered is that our users are happier. They are able to do their jobs and they're able to achieve the outcomes that they need in their day-to-day lives. So whether it's, and again, I'll go back to the example of the chicken pot pie, right? It's moving from the conversation of what is the price of a commodity that I'm buying on a day-to-day basis for our end user, right? Moving from that, instead to having the conversation internally for our large retail customers on what is the margin of this product. How can we ensure in this day and age where margins are under pressure and the consumer has fatigue from inflation, where we can't justify higher prices, how can we make sure that we continue to protect the consumer, right? So being able to answer that strategic question as opposed to doing the reactionary day-to-day price discovery is the biggest ROI that we are able to deliver. And that has meant happier users. It's meant, more sort of more interactions for the product and in general, just goodwill. That obviously translates into higher upsells and cross sells for us because, we see our users discovering more data. Instead of sitting in those silos that I talked about earlier, the data asset is available to them in one place and they're able to discover it, which means we get more cross sells and upsells. And last but not least is, of course, internal operational efficiency. Our team is also happier and more efficient because instead of fighting the day-to-day fires of moving data from here to there, they are able to build value and they are able to focus on their jobs, which is how can I make the user happier?
Excellent. Well, congratulations on harnessing your own data. It sounds like you are on the journey to that perpetual data engine, which is fantastic. And I think next time I go and buy a pork pie or a chicken pie, I'll think of your platform and the data accuracy. So
yeah,
I know who to come and talk to if my pork pie goes up 20 pence. So
yeah. I mean, there's a pretty good chance if you're buying food in anywhere in Europe or the US, our data has touched that at some point in the supply chain.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Vinay. That's very, very insightful. Now I just want to talk about the Colibri like evergreen approach to sort of managed services. Now, when approaching any kind of data and AI journey or solution, whether it's a small incremental proof of value, a MVP, or a full unified data platform solution, we very much work with our customers around, to Vinay's point, talking about the real return on investment and business use cases for that particular business. Every business is different, and trying to unlock value to the business stems all the way through the Colibri business, back from the vision that James Cross set out when he started off Colibri. So our Evergreen managed services model has sort of evolved over the last decade or more. We were an early launch partner with AWS as one of the first MSP approved managed services partners. And we've gone on that journey through, DevOps and FinOps and CI/CD pipelines and automation and all of those wonderful things. And obviously with data-driven insights, machine learning, and now AI really allowing people to enhance the managed services offering, we've made sure that we've AI enabled everything that we do. So our managed services are built around like governance and security at scale, because now most solutions are moving towards data and unlocking data. That data needs to be safe, secured, and we need to know who's accessing it. Is it the right persona? Is it compliant? And all the rest of it. We know that businesses need a continuous view on cost optimization, but also carbon optimization. And very mature conversations and discussion and decision points are often made off the back of reducing carbon footprint. So it's not all just about chasing the pennies. The agility to scale, and we've got flexibility to adopt as well. They're two very different things. The ability to scale, start something small based on some rapid use cases and ROI without massive CapEx investment, whilst also having a solution that can then scale along with further business cases, so that as you're driving value back into the business, your operational costs will obviously increase, but actually you're paying for itself. So that ability to scale is highly important. Flexibility to adopt is around, can you adopt the latest and greatest tech and features coming out tomorrow, whether it's Databricks or Microsoft or AWS? They'll over the coming days and weeks and months and years, there'll be new features, there'll be new AI agents that can do new things, and you don't want to have to step back and re-architect your whole solution or your approach to operations every time there's a new enhancement out that you want to use. So you need a solution that's continuously evolving and ready to integrate and adopt new features. Do we need to look at data training and data modeling and using some of those AI mechanisms to look at drift control and anomaly detection, so that the data is actually being trained in line with your particular business? Every business is very different. So anomaly detection for a rail industry versus a financial services organization versus the Expana themselves are very different. So working and having that constant conversation with the customer to ensure that the data is doing what they need it to do. And then always on monitoring and performance, that one-time change run split of delivering something and walking away and leaving it to a disparate operations team to almost chase tickets and keep it up and on, that's no longer acceptable. That's not really a managed service that's going to allow you to continuously evolve as a business. So actually it's about feedback loops. It's about saying, is it on? Is it up? Is there anything happening that shouldn't be happening? Can we implement automation, orchestration, and self-healing features so that we save energy and effort, so that your actual managed services team becomes a service assurance team? And actually what they're continuously doing is they're leveling up the conversation, and they're bringing you opportunity around security, optimization, scalability, and feature releases. So what we try to do at Colibri is work with these organizations. We've been very successful at it. We've got strategic partnerships with AWS and Databricks. We work with Microsoft and many other partners as well. Our NPS score from our customers for our managed service is 9.5 out of 10. And you'll see some of the organizations that we work with at the bottom of the slide here. Data-driven insights we see as the future. For many of our customers, it's the now, and for some of our customers, they've been working on this for a few years. They were probably ahead of their time, but many organizations are only just now coming to the table to think, how do I unlock my data? How do I, do something to fast track my business and gain a competitive edge? And we certainly see Colibri's Evergreen model right at the heart of that, as a heartbeat that can give your business a connected brain. And from the illustration you can see here, you've got different personas within your own businesses that need to use that data. So we can help you unlock that data and give them a visualization to empower them to do their job quicker, smarter, and enable your business. So that's a high level overview as to how we deliver our managed services. If you'd like to know more about that, we'd love to obviously expand on that and how it's relevant to your specific industry or organization. Just going slightly beyond that, it's how does Colibri work with customers? So obviously with Expana, we've worked in the strategic advice and consultancy area and professional services area as an expansion to Vinay and the team. And because Vinay actually had a very mature approach, roadmap, and team already there. But it was important for Vinay to know that he had an expansion partner available and somebody else to work with from a SME point of view. Now, some of our customers want strategic advice and guidance. and roadmap planning around finding those ROI cases and those top priority business cases. Other customers want help in the professional services arm to deliver something because they want to work with a partner who's delivered these types of case studies before and have got credibility. And other times it's actually just as an expansion partner, because actually some customers want to do this themselves. They've got, they've made a huge investment ahead of time, maybe 18 months, 24 months ago, to build data engineering and AI type practice or capability. And then it's just really about, once AI starts to enable the business, different parts of the business start to get excited by it, and the backlog of use cases starts to grow. So having not only the capability, but the capacity to deliver it in line with your business requirements is sometimes quite difficult. So for some customers, we work with as an expansion partner. And then for other customers, we can help consult, deliver, and then we provide the full Evergreen managed service, continuously giving that feedback of what comes next. And we make sure that our managed services feed straight back into our consultancy layer as a trusted advisor for the organizations. So if that's something that you feel you need, and you're on your own journey, and you maybe some of those delivery cliff comments resonates with you, you feel you might need some help, whether it be a little bit of consultancy, an expansion partner or an SME partner for professional services, or actually you're really interested in what the future of an AI-enabled managed services organization could look like, that's something we could obviously explore with you. Just coming back to yourself, Vinay, if that's okay.
Yep.
When we're looking at managed services, obviously, how did your platform design choices support a future of operations? And did you think about operations and a future operational model?
Yeah, and I think what you alluded to in terms of the future-ready enterprise is key here. From our perspective, it's not good enough for us to be able to provide just the combined insights from the end-to-end value chain to the end user. We want to make sure that our users are getting the full benefit of advancements in AI and the continuously changing technology landscape. And I don't say that simply because there are new technologies out there, but I'm saying that because there are foundationally new things you can do that you couldn't do 2 to 3 years earlier. So it's very important to be able to stay up to date with technology, and it's equally important or more important for you to be able to then pass that along to the end user. So now they can use generative AI to find insights across things that they couldn't earlier, right? Yeah. And in order to do that, the platform choice is the one thing that will make or break, or the structural foundation that you build is going to make or break that thing. For us, it was, and it is extremely important, first of all, to make sure that everything, soup to nuts, is trustworthy. That trust in the foundation is extremely important. So building something that we can go under the hood, get our own assurances and provide assurances to customers is important. But then on top of that, can we build AI models and can we use generative AI in a manner where it is able to access and provide insights on the entire data asset, and do that on the proprietary data set? It's not good enough that you take ChatGPT and slap it on your data and a 2-week pilot and just whatever show it to your end user. I mean, what's the fun in that? It doesn't provide a moat. It doesn't provide value. For us, as we build the AI roadmap, it's very important that users are getting the full benefit of our proprietary data and getting insights they couldn't get anywhere else. And then we continue down that path. And both the decision to go to Databricks, which really allows for that flexible model with that data lakehouse architecture and all of the AI, and LLM integrations and feature functions that are available there natively is key. And on top of that, having a partner that we can sort of work with, and with Colibri, we are able to say, okay, you know what, we want to try this thing out, and you're able to support us both from a resourcing and advisory perspective is important. So that technology choice and the partner choice becomes important because it sets you up for being able to get the outcomes you want without having to constantly reinvent your foundation.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. Whether you choose to go on this journey in-house, outsource it, or have a hybrid model, a little bit like yourselves, that ability to drive ROI in a trusted way with a trusted platform clearly has to be the number one thing, and then obviously having the capability and then the capacity to keep up with what you want to achieve as a business is key. So I think the planning phase for me, the planning phase of understanding where you're going, how quick you want to get there, and then having a resource plan which is made up of technology, processes, and people in terms of how am I going to do this and how am I going to go on this journey. That's probably the most important phase, isn't it? It's that strategic planning phase. From your perspective, now you've been on the journey, and the journey never ends. I guess the destination's always changing.
Yep.
What's your single piece of advice you would give to anyone listening today around avoiding the delivery cliff?
I think the single piece of advice, if I could give, is invest in the foundation. It is extremely important that you make sure that you have done the proper due diligence to understand what your data asset looks like, invest in data engineering, invest in data, and make sure that you're building on a foundation that has a moat. My example of somebody slapping a ChatGPT wrapper on top of a bad data foundation is unfortunately what a lot of people believe is their version of the AI roadmap, and people are doing that, and these products are destined to fail. So do not do that. Understand your data asset, listen to your data engineers, and pay attention to them, and invest in the data pipeline. And if you do that, yes, you will see a slightly longer lead time. By the way, the lead time is not that much longer, right? It's slightly longer lead time, but you will get more than that back in the ROI, in velocity, 3, 6, 9 months down the road, and you'll have this perpetual flywheel that can then continue to deliver innovation for a very, very long time.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Vinay. Great insights. So I think for myself, I'll just talk about that path to that evergreen future. As I touched on a moment ago, the destination is going to change next month or next year. Where you're heading to may well change, and you'll constantly be tweaking where you want to actually get to as an organization. That's all part of your strategic planning. But the journey you're on is what needs to be focused on. And to the point that Vinay's just made, that strategic planning and making sure that you've got a strategic unified data platform that you trust. And that doesn't mean pouring all of your data into a new data lake. It means understanding your data, curating your data, and ingesting the data that you need to drive the business that you want tomorrow. And that's where you can start to prioritize business case and ROI. So strategic planning, and if you don't know how to start, have a strategic workshop with people who know how to do it. Help yourself prioritize how to go on that journey. And it helps limit the upfront investment, but actually you'll have a blueprint that you can take forward, and it will actually give you a longer term journey that will get you to a bright destination. Obviously, we've explored, having a resource plan. Now, whether it's working with a certified and accredited partner who's done it before, whether it's doing it in-house, or whether it's having a hybrid model, understand your own limitations. What capacity you've got, what capability you've got, what technology there is, how in demand are those resources, and how easy is it to actually fail fast and learn versus actually you don't want to fail at all. And come up with that resource plan as part of that strategic planning so that you know what to do. And then obviously continuous planning. The destination obviously is something that will change, but you need to be thinking 12, 18, 24 months in advance so that your actual destination continuously evolves. Bear with me 1 second. Apologies, Amazon man always comes at the wrong time. Okay, so that evergreen future can actually be done, and the planning is around that proactive backlog of what do you want to do next, how do you prioritize it, and how do you go again and again and again so that you continuously put one foot in front of another. So quick recap on what we've covered today. We've looked at the delivery cliff, what it means, what it feels like to be in it, and I'm sure everyone can actually relate to it in terms of being in that position. We've heard about the Expana journey and what they've actually achieved by going on that journey to achieve their own perpetual growth engine, and some of the considerations that they had, and obviously some of the benefits of working with or without a partner. So really the choice is yours in terms of, do you stay on that delivery cliff? Do you stay in a planning phase of maybe we'll start looking at AI tomorrow and data's too difficult, it's too disparate? Or do you actually start to put a plan around how you're going to drive towards a perpetual future? And that's something that obviously we can help you with. So I think I just want to say thank you for everyone who's attended today. I just want to echo, any kind of delay in a data and AI strategy is not good. A delay just means you're probably putting off the inevitable, and competitors will be obviously taking more proactive steps. So you don't really want to be looking in a like a data wasteland where you've got disparate systems and technical debt. You really want to be looking at a perpetual growth engine where you're thinking about AI, how it can enable your business. You're targeting use cases and working out which data in your business, however locked away it may be, can enable that business. And actually, you can start to unlock that data value. So going forward, if you'd like to learn more about Expana, their journey, what they're doing, or maybe look at a demo of the platform, please do reach out to Vinay. I'm sure he'd be super keen to show what Expana can do and talk to businesses who may benefit from that platform. And obviously, if you think you'd benefit from working with the Colibri team, reach out to myself or the wider Colibri team. We can look at discovery workshops, strategy planning sessions, data platform readiness reviews, and take it from there. So, thank you for your time today. I think we'll break there with not too long left, really, just to break into Q&As for any questions that have come through the channel. Lydia, I don't know if we've got any questions that have come through from the live audience.
No. Yes, there are a few that have come through.
Okay, perfect.
Let me just read them out. So one here is, so what's the earliest warning sign that our team might be heading towards the delivery cliff?
So I'll start on it, and Vinay, feel free
Yeah.
to jump in if you think it's not right. But every customer is very, very different, and I think if you're in a position where you're seeing firefighting within your teams, you're seeing bottlenecks within your velocity, engineering time, and the conversation in your business, especially at a C-suite, if you're spending more time looking in the rearview mirror about what happened yesterday and what went wrong, as opposed to what do we want to get out? How do we ship it quicker? How do we look at new feature releases to enhance our product or increase our speed or reduce our unit price? Now, they're the kind of red flags, because you stop looking at metrics, which is like leading indicators around deployment and adoption and velocity, and you start looking at lagging ones, which is deadline misses, attrition, customer churn, and stuff like that. So I'd say it's a cultural thing, and you should be able to reflect and understand if you're having the wrong conversations within your business. Anything you'd add to that?
And I think I'll just add to that and say one of the other indicators from if you're close to the team that's sort of building value is that you'll hear a lot of times a constant conversation around, we need to sort of go back and structure the data or rebuild the foundation, or, the data is not ready and we need to do this. So you'll hear a lot about data, and you'll hear the word data constantly when you talk about bottlenecks and risks. That should never be the case. If that's the case, then you have a strong indicator that you need to go back and fix that, because data should be an enabler. It should not be a bottleneck.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Okay, hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. And then I think we've got time for just one last quick one. So here we are. So we're exploring agentic AI. How do you see it changing the way firms should think about Evergreen Ops in the next year? And what is the biggest difference between Evergreen Ops and what we've talked about today and traditional managed services?
Yeah, okay. So I think hopefully that going back to that model that we showed on the screen. So agentic AI, every kind of technology partner, whether you're working within an AWS world, a Microsoft world, or Databricks world, we're seeing more and more and more AI features coming out. And what each of them do really, really well is, so if you look at someone like AWS, they give you the guardrails and the environmental controls, security, and governance at a layer that you can't recreate anywhere else. And a lot of that is now built in with agentic AI type models. Databricks is then looking at the data modeling, the drift controls within your data. And obviously now you're seeing agentic AI agents that actually are starting to bring those two worlds together, and based on your own business, starting to look at with an insurance mindset. So I think the main thing is culturally, you move away from that reactive responding to issues within the platform, and actually you move to a more proactive self-healing, auto-scaling type environment where you've got AI, agentic AI kind of controls in place, looking for where there's opportunity to enhance or tweak or optimize, and therefore your service ops actually become more and more important than the ops of 5 years ago, because these are enablers for your business. They're coming up with new ideas, and there's like the guardians of that like connected brain that's feeding probably every department in your business, from R&D to internal departments as well. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a cultural shift in terms of how you can use your Evergreen Ops.
And I think while just quickly add to that, there is a fundamental shift in terms of, when you look at traditional AI, you have more measurable metrics, like, you can measure the F1 score to see if the model is misbehaving. With agentic AI, it's very different. You need to sort of monitor more qualitative trustworthiness of the agents, and that's equally important with Evergreen Ops.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much to everybody who joined today. Thank you again to Vinay, and good luck on your next steps of your journey. I'm sure you're going to be super successful, and Colibri will be by your side every step of the way. If you've got any further questions, feel free to reach out to Vinay or myself, and we'd love to engage with anybody. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
No time, no worries. Thank you.